Every time walking into a Radisson premise, I have many moments which I'll take back.
Our vision is to be the top 3 recall for an owner, for a guest, and for the employees.
The tier 2 towns, there's so much of growth which has started to happen for the fact that people for business purposes or for weddings and including hosting such functions is a huge opportunity.
From 15%, almost for 30-35% of our future pipeline is in the tier 3, tier 4 cities.
With India rapidly rising on the tourism map globally, a lot of people have started to come into the country, and a lot of people who are loyal to the brand elsewhere would logically and naturally walk into a Radisson property in the country also.
We are in the people's business, so that's one of our core philosophies, and we continue to do that. Just statistically speaking, after agriculture, hospitality and tourism is the highest employer in the country.
That's very, very inspiring. I'm sure this is going to be inspiration for people, and I'll encourage and urge, because in my own capacity, to whatever extent I can, I spread stories like these. In an industry that thrives on creating unforgettable experiences, my guest for this episode of Duologues, Nikhil Sharma, is a true master of the craft. With over 25 years of experience in the hospitality sector, Nikhil has been instrumental in shaping the industry as he leads the strategic direction for the group, focusing on revenue growth, operational excellence, and the brand engagement. What truly sets Nikhil apart is his passion for leadership, his people-first approach, and his out-of-the-box thinking. He is also co-author of Rumi and Kabir Consulting, a book that draws wisdom from these legendary philosophers and poets to inspire new generation of leaders. Join me in this engaging conversation as we talk about business, brand building, and much more. So Nikhil, thank you for having me here and agreeing to do this episode of Duologues with me. And it's a pleasure to be walking into this property, which many times crossing this highway at Mahipalpur, we have seen in the decades gone by. I used to work for a Korean company in Noida, and those days, Gurgaon used to be an off-site. And I remember walking into these premises more than 2 decades before, roughly around that time, for an off-site. So thank you for having us. And I'm looking forward to this conversation, which I'm sure is going to be insightful and will be sharing inspiration with a lot of people. You've been doing well, setting the new standards in the hospitality industry, leading the Radisson group of hotels. So to begin with, it would be interesting to start the conversation by asking you that, tell us something about this property. I understand this is one amongst the initial properties of Radisson which came into the country. And then I have myself, from my own perspective, seen this part of the country grow. Initially, I believe that this would be about vicinity with the airport. And then the whole bustling town of Gurgaon came into existence. It grew at an exponential pace. And so was the case with highway also, which may be a benefit also and a potential challenge also for a property for a few years. So tell that how this property came up, and tell us something about the Radisson Group itself within the country or elsewhere.
So Manish, firstly, thank you for having Radisson and me on your show. We are humbled, honored to be part of this. I'll start with this hotel, and this is an iconic hotel for us because this was the first Radisson hotel that opened in the country.
Right.
A little more than 25 years ago, 26 years, Radisson is 26 years old in the country. And this was the first hotel to open. So for us, it's a special hotel. And when you reached out, I thought this was the hotel
place to. Yeah.
Because this is really the beginnings. And today we are close to 200 hotels in the country. And this is really where the roots began. When this hotel was being built, like you said, Gurgaon wasn't as developed, AeroCity wasn't there. So it was out in the jungle, and people at that point felt that this hotel is too far out. Today, it's really city center from where we are. It's convenient from Delhi. It's convenient from Gurgaon. Of course, the traffic is the traffic. And I believe some easing will happen in the near future.
Yeah.
But this hotel is iconic for us, and we continue to invest in this hotel and take it to new heights.
Right. Has the purpose evolved over a period of time? Because, as I said, I saw this property one for people who were on the other side of the city for purposes like workshops and offsites. And of course, its vicinity for many, many years close to the airport, being one amongst the few hotels which were 5-star rated. I believe from that purpose, it would have started. Have you seen the purpose evolve? And as we see that in the backdrop of the gone by, much has changed. We'll talk about it also, that how the group has embraced this change, or say led this change. But has the purpose of existence of this property evolved over a period of time?
I would say hospitality and upper upscale and luxury hotels have evolved. And the big evolution after 2020 has been the big fat Indian weddings.
Right.
So MICE has always been a big part of a hotel like this, right? But what we have seen is the evolution of the Indian weddings, and more people wanting to do weddings in hotels and not in farmhouses and gardens and so on and so forth. Also during a lot of these events became more affordable, was smaller in size.
Right.
So people got a flavor of it, and that's really where the expansion started happening. So that's one big change that I have seen.
Right. And you mentioned that 200 Radisson properties in the country, and if I remember correctly, it's 1,400 globally. Is that the right number?
Yeah, close to 1,500, but numbers keep changing because we sign more and more hotels globally, but that is correct.
So India plays what role as far as the global scheme of things are concerned? What role India has started to play?
So from an India perspective, I think because we are in the business of hospitality, right? There are some best practices that we do in India also compared to the West. The labor arbitrage in this part of the world is far lower.
Yes.
So while the labor arbitrage is lower, but our HLP costs are higher if you were to compare it to the West. There are a lot of services that we end up giving in this part of the world, which you cannot do in the West, right? And they use more technology for that. We've used more labor for that.
Right.
But integrating that piece of technology and that smile at the reception is where I think India has played a role. We are about 15% of the total portfolio of, and with our growth that we're getting globally. So India has a fairly good chunk from that perspective of what Radisson is doing. But of course, Radisson continues to grow globally. So those numbers keep changing. You know how it is.
Right.
I mean, you see that at Panasonic as well. So
sure.
It's a numbers game at the end of the day.
Right.
Quarter to quarter.
Right.
And that's the race.
Yeah. So I'm sure that for global organization like yours, there would be some practices which are globally consistent, which would cut across all properties of Radisson. So give us a sense, which are those values for which Radisson would stand? Of course, the values would be like consistent all across, but which are, say, those deliveries or services which would cut across globally across any Radisson property? And would there be a unique practice which would happen, say, in India?
So 2 or 3 things on that. So our vision is to be the top 3 recall for an owner, for a guest, and for the employees.
Right.
Right. So that is what we work towards. At Radisson, we all have badges of yes, I can. So that's the attitude. And that is a common across all our hotels globally. And the other thing that we speak about globally is every moment matters for every guest. And that's important on how we deliver it. Of course, localization happens to a degree,
right?
But it's very important for us that every guest is taken care and every moment matters when they're at a Radisson. Right.
So when you say every moment matters, I would surely agree with this. Every time walking into a Radisson premise, I have many moments which I'll take back. You know, when I walk out of these premises, I completely agree. Now, the challenge is that how do you inculcate these values, these principles into people, while every time I walk in, I experience uniformity whenever I interact with any staff at the Radisson. So give us a sense that how do you train the people consistently, especially the ones who are joining the organization fresh?
So firstly, thank you for that comment. We are about 18,000 people in the country today. And consistency from our lenses is a challenge. But if you as a guest have experienced it, that the kudos goes to the team. We are constantly training our people, investing in them at various levels. So I'll give you an example. We have a program called Accelerate. Now, this is a program for HODs across all our hotels. It's a very simple program. That program is actually a program to make you a general manager within a year, right? So we every year handpick 2 resources, and you could be from finance, you could be from HR, or you could be from any back office procurement. But if you have the desire to be a general manager, we make sure that we give you the training, we send you to global centers of ours that operate, and within a year, make you a general manager within the system. So you have to invest in the people. We are in the people's business. So
Wonderful.
That's one of our core philosophies, and we continue to do that.
Right. Variety of business models would be there, and you mentioned that you would like to stay in the consideration list of owners also. You mentioned, apart from the fact that all what you do is for customers. So what's the business model like? And of the 200 properties of Radisson in India, how many would there be few which Radisson would own themselves, or majority is such that the owner say entrusts it to you to be able to manage it?
So globally, all international brands are into management and franchise.
Right.
We lease as a model, but we lease in Europe. In India, we have stake in one hotel.
Sure.
But other than that, the model has been management and franchise.
Right.
In this part of the world, and lease in Europe.
Say for hospitality industry, I'm sure now with India rapidly rising on the tourism map globally, a lot of people have started to come into the country. And for the fact that you have global loyalty programs, it would be safe to assume that a lot of people who are loyal to the brand elsewhere would logically and naturally walk into a Radisson property in the country also. So how do you see India evolving on the tourism map globally? And in this whole process, are there a certain amount of challenges to be able to provide, say, standards of service or the quality of service, while I assume that it would cut across consistently globally for Radisson? But are there some challenges while this huge inrush of tourists will start to come into our country from here on?
Inbound tourism is something that I think we are not seeing the return
as
yet, right? And the numbers that you see of 10 million includes OCI cardholders and so on and so forth, right? So actually, in my personal assessment, I think those numbers would be 3 to 4 million, right? The real numbers, right? But what has really changed is that domestic market, and we've always been a domestic-led market, right? And hospitality has led the way. We're 95% domestic today. And that is where the focus is. You will see India is not a cheap destination to travel to today.
True.
I mean, there are lots of countries that are far, far cheaper, far more economical than India. India is a destination where if somebody is searching spiritualism or is coming for business, really, those are the 2 pillars. I think from that perspective, Radisson is positioned, and I was giving this analogy earlier, and I'll give you another analogy. Because we've been spreading ourselves within the country in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities in the last almost 3 decades that we've been here, compared to other international brands, the feeling that a lot of our guests have that Radisson is a domestic brand. It's like Bata, because you grew up thinking Bata is a domestic brand, but it's actually not domestic brand. So I think Radisson is in that same sphere. And what Indigo has done to airlines, Radisson in this country has done towards hotels and luxury for most of the country.
Now, again, talking about this strategy, how difficult or easy? Because while India is growing in those parts of our country, the tier 2 towns, there's so much of growth which has started to happen for the fact that people for business purposes or for weddings and including hosting such functions is a huge opportunity. But on the other hand, being one amongst the first ones to have a property like that of that scale is not easy to execute. So tell us more about this strategy, and why did you consider this strategy?
And I would put leisure destinations in another bucket, but we started growing in tier 2 cities. About 26% of our portfolio is in tier 2 cities. But the big growth that we are seeing now is in tier 3, tier 4 cities. So from 15%, almost for 35% of our future pipeline is in the tier 3, tier 4 cities. Also, India has really changed, right? I mean, today, somebody sitting in an Nainital or somebody sitting in Cuttack, for example, has the same access to technology that you and I have, thanks to the internet penetration in the country. And you're seeing the internet penetration being higher in rural India than in urban India. And they have the same aspirations, and they have the money to spend. So for them to have a hotel in their locality, I mean, we opened a Parkin Inn Suites in Vellore, right, in Kerala. And the kind of response that hotel got, we built it as a 3-star product because we said it can't take a Radisson or a Radisson Blue. But we're already getting complaints from guests saying your banquet hall is too small. We need a much larger banquet hall. We want to do larger functions in that hotel. So those are challenges that even we are learning in tier 3, tier 4 cities where we continue to expand the F&B scope because F&B is key in this part of the world.
Right. And do you also face challenges in terms of, again, we spoke about the fact that you are all about people and how important training is while you're expanding into those pockets. So how do you ensure that the standards on account of training of people and their ability to treat the guests, are you seeing that as a challenge, or it is an opportunity for people who are like locals of that particular geography?
We have a migrant mindset. And let me explain what this is.
Sure.
It's true for Indians that are abroad, and we have this migrant mindset that we have to succeed. But again, if you look at India, right, the job opportunities were in the larger cities.
Right.
So somebody coming from Gwalior, again, your example, you had a migrant mindset that I have to succeed.
True.
Right. And which is why you are where you are.
Right.
So I'm typecasting us as a migrant mindset.
Sure. We all are migrants.
We are all migrants one way or the other, right? If you think about it, right? So that mentality is extremely important for us. And I am seeing actually a reverse migration. We opened a hotel in Saputara, and I did not know where Saputara is.
No, even I don't know.
It's on the border of Maharashtra.
Oh.
It's closer to Surat. It's a vegetarian hotel, but it has alcohol in it, right? And I'm seeing the HODs in that hotel, about 50% of them are women, firstly, which is a delight to see.
Right.
In a remote location like Saputara. But all of them have worked in Delhi, Bombay, Dubai, Kuwait, and are coming back home, or we're opening a hotel in Siliguri. We're seeing a lot of people wanting to come back at even comparatively lower salaries than what they were getting, but at the delight of being closer to their home, if not in the home city. So you're seeing a lot of, I mean, at least I'm seeing a lot of reverse migration when we're opening these hotels in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities.
Right. We'll talk about this migrant mindset more when we dive deep into understanding what makes you what you are. Switching the conversation to understand more about you, Nikhil, and for sure you mentioned this term, it kept me thinking, I'll continue to think about it, migrant mindset. I mean, it's thought-provoking. While we all believe that being a migrant is about, say, relocating yourselves from one place to the other for a specific purpose. But when you spoke about this fact, I was thinking through parallelly hearing you. Migrant mindset might not only be about like physically relocating yourselves from one place to the other. It might be about emotionally migrating yourselves, intellectually becoming a better version of what you used to be, say spiritually. And I'm still yet to go through the entire book. This one which you published, co-authored, Rumi and Kabir Consulting. The name itself is very interesting. It kept me thinking that what is it all about? So let's talk about this book to begin with. Tell us broadly what this book is all about and how did this idea come to your mind to co-author this book?
So firstly, besides all the Zoom calls, which we were all on at the and you started the podcast, I always wanted to write a book. I had started penning it down, but gave me the opportunity to have more peace at home, sit in a room and write. And that's how the book started. And like I said earlier, it took me more time to actually edit the book than to write the book.
Right.
Rumi and Kabir are two characters that I used. So Rumi was a 13th century philosopher. He actually started Sufism. And he was a professor in Konya University in Turkey. And Kabir is the Indian poet who we've all heard about, right? So they come to Gurgaon in an IT company as happiness coach. So they're time transported as happiness coaches. And it's got some poetry in it and translation from my end of their poetry. Because we all interpret poetry differently, right? And they're giving old age solutions for new age problems.
Yeah, interesting. So why happiness? Like you mentioned about happiness coaching or something like that. Why happiness? Why did this thought of happiness? Like people in our position can have consideration for a variety of central topics or something which is central to the messaging which one wants to deliver through one's writing. It can be things on leadership, and I'm sure you would not have gone through those experiences yet when you started to author this book, but those were like a couple of very tough years, and it could be about resilience. Why happiness came to your mind as one of the messages coming out of this book?
It's in pursuit of happiness that we all are, right? Everything that we do actually is in the pursuit of happiness.
Yeah. In the first instance, I was aspiring to make my life better. Affluence would have been one of the pursuits. It took a while for me to understand that happiness should be the pursuit. So, yeah. So, I mean, life is such. And in my case, those are the three attributes which, when I look back, I mean, it's easy to look back and decide it for yourself that you were that structured. But when I look at myself, initially it was about pursuing ambition. For a certain reason, this could be like benchmarks or people who I used to look up to. So ambition and then resilience, because life is such that it is not always the same. So ambition, resilience, and then eventually it came to humility. And then I understood that it is happiness which one is wanting to find. So how did this happen to you? Like, how did you, in your own journey, you've accomplished yourself so much and you would have gone through a variety of situations in your life. So why did you then finally, or probably you're still migrating yourselves, keep happiness as one of the deliverables out of this book?
No, firstly, I think you summarized it extremely well, right? I don't think any of these attributes change even while you're in pursuit of happiness. And I truly believe that you have to live life in a series and not in a parallel, right? I mean, you're the chairman, you're a father, many more things in life. You're doing a podcast, you're pushing the limits for yourself, right? Similarly, I think all of us need to keep doing that, but you need to find that happiness from within. I mean, at the end of the day, we are all competing within ourselves.
Great.
And really that's the messaging. Don't look at the grass is always greener on the other side, because it could be because there's more manure there or there are more cows on that field than in your field, and so on and so forth. But
or it's just a mirage of sort.
I mean, one of the things that I've tried to address is that egos are illusions, and you don't need to be materialistic. And you said humility and simplicity are something that just happen to be part of what I truly believe in life is all about.
It's so difficult to overpower your egos and the mindsets which evolve over a period of time, and probably they're deep rooted into your childhood memories. And as you grow up, let's talk about you, like in your own life. How have you seen yourselves evolving over a period of time? Do you see yourselves a different version of what, say, you used to be a decade or two before? What has changed in you?
I want to beat yesterday, right? I want to be a better version every day than my previous version.
Right.
I want to do better in everything that I do, and I want to believe in the depth of things, not just the periphery of things. Right. So I think Nikhil today is a very different version from Nikhil yesterday, from Nikhil from a year ago, and we all evolve, right? True. And I truly believe that you have to be a continuous learner. You have to learn. You have to be out there. You don't have to read every time. Podcasts today are a great example of how life has changed, and you can listen to podcasts, you can listen to audible books, or go out there in the market and meet a lot of people. And actually, this industry gives you that opportunity, right? If you love socializing, if you love meeting people, if you learn from meeting people, this is an industry that gives you that opportunity to do that.
And what career choices did you make, like when you graduated? And I understand that you studied when your parents were in Oman. So give us a sense of your life itself, like how did it went through your teenage and beyond?
So first things first, in the Middle East, you live a very cocoon life.
Right.
And you are not used to the realities of what India really is. Right. So I was fairly good in economics, and I wanted to pursue economics. And you had a lot of colleges from Europe coming in, hospitality colleges, trying to lure those students. And I changed my mind. I told my dad that, I want to do hotel management. And he didn't agree. He said, will you do service? It's not all glamour. And he kept pushing me not to do it. And I guess I was at an age where I was adamant and I said, I want to do it, I want to do it, I want to do it. And today's time is different. Today, I can't have that conversation with my daughter and my son because I have to say yes to everything. But our times were different. So if your dad said no, it meant no. And I kept pushing it. So much so I went down that rabbit hole that he said, okay, I'm in 12th. And he's asking me 4 months before the board exam. So what have you decided? I want to do hotel management. He said, okay, there's this college in India. There's an entrance exam. There's an interview. It's in Delhi. If you make it to that college and that college only, can you do hotel management? And that college is called IHM Pusa. As luck would have it, I did make it through to Pusa, and I landed up in hostel. And from a boy who was leading a completely cocooned life to understanding what India is at hostel was a complete different transformation. So that journey, I think, is a journey in itself, and you really realize the differences that and the unity that this country has. It's just amazing.
Right. So that's how you went in that particular direction. Now, when you look back, I mean, did you then? I'm sure I could guess the answer, but when you look back, and what was the imagination like then? And when you look back now, was this the journey you thought you'll be going through?
No.
So what was going through your mind then? What was the ambition like?
The ambition then was to become a duty manager in Taj Palace. And then when you became the duty manager at a very young age, you realized at that time that there were people doing the same job for the last anywhere between 8 to 16 years.
Right.
And then I said, this isn't for me. I need to learn. I need to grow. And I want to learn other functions as well. I don't want to limit myself to one function. And I think it's extremely important for anyone in any industry to try and learn from their colleagues, from their peers, and don't get into a silo that I am only from one function.
Right.
Right. It's extremely important as an individual to grow. And that mindset, I think, has kept me going and taken me through the career path.
Your ability to be open to learn and your ability to consistently apply to learn as much as possible.
I would say that's right.
So do you consider to continue to learn even now when
Absolutely.
you've reached a certain position in your professional career?
Positions only temporary.
Yeah, sure.
There's learning on meeting you. There's learning from meeting your team.
Right.
So learning doesn't stop. I mean, every day is a new learning, and I actually look out for what did I learn today at the end of the day. And that's how I think each one of us can be a better person, and you can beat yesterday.
Right. So how would you summarize? So I've surely taken this thing that you will attribute learning being central to your growth throughout your professional journey and life itself. What do you think people consider when they look at you? I'm sure this is a difficult one. I have to probably ask them that of what they think of you. And in specific, if you can reflect upon like because had a great impact on this industry, and your responsibility, your reputation would start to get challenged in this circumstance. A lot of people like us went through that situation because all the expectations were then coming central to the leadership. So say if you can reflect upon that, your impression into people's mind, in specific people at Radisson, say pre and post, has it changed or has it got better or something has changed?
I think most organizations are in a better spot today, are more employee friendly today, are more agile today. Of course, it's a reflection of the leadership, but in global companies, I think we are far more conscious about it and work towards it. And I would use the 80-20 principle. While 80% would be global, that 20% localization is extremely important. And Indians tend to be very emotional at work, right? So for us, it's a very thin line. And you have to be conscious about that, and you have to make sure that the team members move in that direction with you. Because if they're convinced emotionally, they are more invested with you in growing themselves and growing the brand.
Emotion is very unique to every individual.
Yes.
And in our industry, which is more manufacturing led, it's easy to channelize that emotion because you're wanting to have specific attributes in people when they come together for a particular cause. So discipline would be one of the attributes. Following processes as they are defined would be another attributes. So in some sense, it can be a little easy for us to manage the emotional perspectives and ensuring that those emotions, while they are very diverse, specific to every individual, can be still channelized. In hospitality industry, it's very, very different because irrespective whatever emotion you go through, you have to treat your guests with consistency. And so coming back to that question, so like you can't afford to, being in your position, deal with specific individuals as much as you were able to when you were dealing with specific teams. So how do you inculcate this whole environment within Radisson that you deal with those emotions in a manner that they do not have a negative impact on the job which they deliver?
So we spoke about happiness, but hotels are generally a happy place, right? And one of the things that you will see in the back offices in hotels are mirrors, and you'll see sayings that say, smile, you're on stage now, and so on and so forth. So there are subtle messages to say that, you may have 1,000 problems, but you leave that at this door. And when you walk out of this door, you're there to serve the customers and our guests and make sure they have a good time, because they could be having a tough time as well in their lives. But it's our job, and it's a beautiful job, like a caregiver, but not a caregiver to that extent. But that's the industry we are in. And at the end of the day, it's a people's business, right? Since we spoke about and people said, oh, buffets are dead. Nobody's going to go to hotels anymore. But I can tell you, if you go to any hotel today and go to the breakfast section, there are lines there for the buffet, right? So we've all forgotten everything from that period.
Yeah, more wider than what it used to be. Like the spreads are much more wider than what they used to be. So finally, culminating the conversation into, say, in your opinion, what should be the attributes which define a leader?
I think, and there's a lot of conversations in the past few weeks about work-life balance and so on and so forth, to each his own. But I think if you need to succeed in life, perseverance, resilience, hard work, continue to learn, and there are no shortcuts in life.
Right. Nikhil, you are handling a complex responsibility spread across large geography and differently positioned services and properties, cutting across hundreds and thousands of people. Yet you seem to be happy and fit. How do you make that work-life balance for yourselves? And say, not necessarily work-life. I believe that it's all life. But how do you keep yourselves fit, both physically and say emotionally, mentally, intellectually?
So Manish, I went to a meditation camp. It's called Vipassana.
When did you go?
Which center?
No, I mean, when did this happen?
Was actually, so I've tried various meditation forms in the past, but
why did the need arise in the first instance?
I think it's got to do with the search for oneself more than anything else. And I kind of wrote about it in the book as well. But truly, happiness comes from within. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
And you can go to various gods, and all gods are great across religions. But really, it's about finding that inner peace that matters. And life is good. Huh? It's not that I needed to walk away from something. I mean, everything is good. And I think Vipassana was life-changing for me. So it's an 11-day course, the first one, where you don't read, you don't write, and you don't talk. Your day starts at 6:30 in the morning. Your last meal is at 11:30 a.m. Right? So after 12 noon, you have nothing to eat besides cleaning the body and the whole procedure of meditation. I think I'm far more agile in my thinking today. I'm far more sharper. And that's a practice that I continue to do every day. Wherever I am, I try and make sure that I meditate every day.
How long do you meditate every day?
Well, anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how much I can, because we spend a lot of time traveling. But even if it's in a flight, I try and do it.
Nikhil, again, thank you very much for the conversation. And this potentially brings me to the last question, again in line with what we are discussing, and would be my own quest of What is that higher purpose which say wakes you up every morning to do what you do?
The higher purpose is, like I said earlier, to do a better job in whatever I'm doing, to be a better father today, to be a better colleague today, to contribute to society in general, right? And I think what the opportunity that we have today of creating jobs in this country, right? And of course, traveling to meet these team members across the country, it just is so exciting that it doesn't keep me awake at night, but gets me charged up in the morning.
Wonderful. So Nikhil, thank you very much for this conversation, and I wish you all the best. All the team members at Radisson Hotel Group. You're doing a wonderful job, and thank you for providing the level of services you do in specific to the smaller parts of the country. I believe that the country deserves those experiences and somebody and institution or a company enterprise to lead those initiatives in those pockets of our country. This will continue to be very, very empowering to that specific part of our country. So I wish you all the best, the group all the best for the time to come.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for having us.